All right. What is going on, everyone? And welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast as we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus Padres series, as well as all of the latest news and rumors with all the trade stuff going on. I mean, it is complete chaos that is going on right now within the last 24 hours right now of the trade deadline. So before we do get into that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for new episodes of our show that are recorded after every single series of games during the regular season. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. For those of you in the chat right now, we love reading your comments, your questions, your concerns, all that great stuff regarding this team. If you feel like you're being ignored, you're not being ignored, you're just being starred throughout the show, we'll try to pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok, which includes Frank's instant post-game reactions after every single regular season game, which are titled The Mets Frankly Post-Game. For our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. It would be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into episode number 156 of our show. And let's just say a very eventful last few days. We just saw two trades that just helped the bullpen out, and we will get into all of them. We will break down them all as much as we can. But again, coming off of a series in San Francisco that had more encouraging signs, they won 7 in a row. Then they get into San Diego here, and it is not the same story. They just completely faceplant, getting swept out of the building to end July, going into August. So, Frank, you're here. Obviously, we've talked about it before with a lot of these matchups they've had with some of these good teams or bad teams. I mean, just an unacceptable performance in San Diego. I think that's just an easy way to put it.
It was ugly in a lot of different departments. I mean, in game one and game two, it was really ugly in the bullpen department, but the Mets addressed that. So, I mean, the hope is that, like, maybe this is the last time that we see something like this as far as just like these bullpen meltdowns, blowups, whatever you want to call it. The guys that the Mets added today with what they gave up, like, this is supposed to stop this. They talked to Ryan Stanek at the end today after all the trades, and they told him, and Stanek's like, geez, I might be pitching in the fourth inning now because of
Yeah.
all the arms that they've added. Back end arms, high leverage arms, not all the minor league guys we saw for months and months and months. So we're hoping that this is a big improvement. We saw Jose Butto struggle last night, and Brazaban struggled the night before. So Brazaban struggles, gets sent to the minors. I kind of jokingly tweeted, "Oh well, maybe Butto should get sent down to the minors next." Well, he's out of minor league options, so they just sent him off the team completely. So it's more so like, if you don't play well, then goodbye, and we'll see who else is on that goodbye list. I have a feeling there's more. So it's going to be very fascinating. Interesting hours coming ahead. So stay tuned here today. We're going to be here again tomorrow for our massive stream with a bunch of people. So it's going to be eventful. We're going to be busy.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts. Obviously, there is a lot that is flowing. Again, it like we said last episode, we were like, okay, did this trade deadline have the potential to be awesome, or did it have the potential to be, really, really just very, mediocre? And I'd say that the reliever market has definitely just sparked up completely. You usually get those before the 24-hour mark with the relievers, but obviously there's been a lot of relievers being talked about beforehand. And I think that it's really, really easy to say that there are some names out there, but also it'll be interesting to see what happens with the starting pitching market, because we haven't really seen much of that just yet, except for like some, Eric Fetty or Carlos Carrasco going to the Braves, which is not like the big caliber of the frontline pieces or well-known names that have gone out. So we'll see who holds on to who. who trades who, what happens, who's available, because anybody could get traded, anybody can be available. There are some people that maybe didn't expect Jose Butto to go, and he ended up going today. So we'll see what happens. We'll get into all of it, all of the trades that the Mets made for two certain relievers. We'll get into that. But speaking of trades, I do want to remind everyone, and Frank just hinted to it there, I want to remind everyone to come back here live on our YouTube channel tomorrow for a very special live stream. We are going live for the final 3 hours before the MLB trade deadline hits at 6 p.m. We will have a boatload of special guests joining us. It's always a lot of fun. We do it every year. It all starts tomorrow, which is Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, all the way to 6 p.m. for the MLB trade deadline. So make sure to tune in and join the conversation with us to talk about the latest trade deadline news and see our reactions to everything on a usually hectic day for baseball. Reminder, one more time, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Mets Weekly's 2025 MLB trade deadline special, only on the Mets YouTube channel and X platform. So, without further ado, let's get into everything that we need to cover. There's plenty to get into, obviously, starting with a series that was not so pleasant in San Diego that just ended a few hours ago.
We have non-trade news that's pretty baseball important that just broke.
Okay.
We have Shohei Ohtani walking off the mound with a Dodgers trainer after throwing 6 consecutive balls and looking quite frustrated.
Okay.
With Blake Snell accepting to return on Saturday. So just keep that in mind.
Oh, interesting. So maybe that has something to do with how they address the trade market with their starters, because they will go full force for that type of thing. But anyways, we will see what they end up, we will see what everybody ends up doing. The Mets have definitely been active. They have acquired 3 relievers so far. We'll see what happens from there. But beforehand, let's actually get into this series that they just played. We'll try to go a little bit more quickly as we usually do in breaking down this series, because obviously this is a little bit more about the trade deadline stuff. Who knows, something could probably break while I am doing this. Who knows, it's definitely started to heat up over these past few hours.
Just so everyone knows, the news breaks as soon as we hit end stream. As soon as we click that button, that's when you can expect news. So just keep your eyes peeled for that.
Probably. We will definitely cue things up. The timing is fantastic. Luckily, I had things lined up fairly well for this Helsley trade, and I will get into that eventually. But let's get into the rundown of this series. What?
I remember one year, it was a few years ago, we were doing a stream. It was an OG stream. We had a lot of people on. And it's when the Dodgers they made the Max Scherzer and Trey Turner trade while we were live doing a Mets Weekly stream. And we were like, oh my God, the Dodgers, like evil empire. It was crazy. I mean, like, that's what happens this time of year. So I don't think we'll see something of that magnitude, nuts. But that was like a legendary memory.
Yeah, it's nuts. I was surprised, I was able to get some notes in for, obviously the Rogers trade, but also the Helsley trade comes through while I'm prepping this stream. So I had to rush things a little bit. So if you guys see a little typos, it happens, but, we will... We'll figure it out. We'll be able to run things down. But let's get into this series in San Diego real quick, obviously, before we get into all of the trade news, which is basically the main topic, as we know, within 24 hours of the trade deadline. But as for this series in San Diego, let's get started with Game 1. Frankie Montas will make the start and struggle with a high pitch count all night before blowing up in the 5th inning. A 2-run homer to Luis Arraez, followed by a single and a double that would chase him out of the game for Huskar Brazaban, who was no better, allowing all of Montas' base runners to score due to failing to cover first base after a diving stop by Pete Alonso that would have ended the inning, but it would fuel a 5-run fifth inning for the Padres. Montas would end his day with 4 1/3 innings pitched, 8 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts on 83 pitches. The Mets would take an early lead in the second after a 1-out walk to Jeff McNeil and a single by Mark Vientos to make it first and third. Brett Beatty would get the Mets on the board with a sacrifice fly, and tied 1-1 in the fifth. Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor would begin the inning with back-to-back singles. Juan Soto would ground into a force out to make it first and third. He'd steal second, forcing the Padres to intentionally walk Jeff McNeil, loading the bases for Mark Vientos, who would launch a grand slam to right field, his 7th home run of the year, his first since late May, to give the Mets a 5-1 lead. That would not stick, as said before. Rico Garcia would pitch a scoreless 6th and 7th inning with 4 strikeouts. Ryan Stanek would get the 8th and toss a 1-2-3 inning with a strikeout, down 6-5 in the 9th with 1 out. Ronnie Mauricio would come to the rescue with a huge game-tying solo home run, his 7th of the year. But Gregory Soto would make his 2nd appearance as a Met, and it did not go well. After a leadoff single by Xander Bogaerts, former Met Jose Iglesias would come off the bench to bunt. Soto would throw the ball wide of the bag to second on the sacrifice to make it first and second. He'd redeem himself a little bit on another sacrifice bunt attempt by Jake Cronenworth, getting the out at third and then striking out Bryce Johnson for the 2nd out. But Elias Diaz would single to left field to drive in Iglesias and walk off the Mets in Game 1, 7-6. Game 2, Sean Manaea would make the start, and he threw a lot more strikes this time around, but struggled to put hitters away, which drove his pitch count up. He'd end his day with 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 0 walks, 4 strikeouts on 86 pitches, down 1-0 in the 5th after walks to Brett Beatty and Brandon Nimmo, and a single by Luis Torrens to load the bases. Pinch hitter Starling Marte would tie the game on a sacrifice fly. However, Jose Butto would come on to pitch, which would be his final game as a Met. He'd come on to pitch the 6th, and after a leadoff walk was erased by a caught stealing from Luis Torrens, Luis Ariz would single and score all the way from first on an RBI triple by Jackson Merrill to give the Padres the lead. Butto would come back out for the 7th and struggle even more, allowing back-to-back singles to Jose Iglesias and Jake Cronenworth. Elias Diaz would drive both of them in with a 2-run single, and Butto would only get the first 2 outs in the 7th. The Mets would go to Chris Davinsky with 2 on, and he'd surrender a 3-run homer to Manny Machado to put the game out of reach and hand the Mets back-to-back losses in San Diego, 7-1. Game 3, Clay Holmes would make the start, and he was not sharp whatsoever, struggling with his command and control all day. He'd pitch only into the 4th inning, getting 2 outs, but allowing 2 hits in the process, and he would get pulled for Reed Garrett, who would finish the inning to close the book on Holmes. 3 2/3 innings pitched, 8 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 unearned runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts on 79 pitches. Garrett would come back out for the 5th and work around a leadoff walk to toss a scoreless inning. Ryan Stanek would come on for the 6th and toss a 1-2-3 inning with a strikeout. Brooks Raley would toss a scoreless 7th. Rico Garcia would get the 8th inning and surrender his first ever earned run as a member of the New York Mets to make it a 5-0 ball game. As for the Mets offense, nothing. Completely dominated by Yu Darvish and the Padres bullpen to finish it off, to go quietly in the series finale and get swept out of San Diego 5-0. The Mets are now 62-47 on the season going into the trade deadline. And as we currently speak, the game's not over yet, but it's pretty much in metaphor over. The Phillies are losing bad right now to the Chicago White Sox, so the Mets are about to still have a half a game lead on the Phillies for first place in the National League East. So, Frank, obviously, like we said, just like that Giants series, you were not able to see the first 2 games as much of them because they were a little bit later. But again, the one that you were able to see today, you they didn't even show up. But again, overall, a horrendous series in San Diego. Not something you want to see against another contender, like you said. Hopefully, with these bullpen additions, hopefully a lot of the issues they saw in those first two games don't flare up. But wow, just a rough performance. So your takeaways from these three games in San Diego, just not good at all.
Yeah, not good at all. I mean, it's especially frustrating. It felt like the series, it just progressively got more frustrating because it's like game one was certainly a tough loss, no doubt about it. It was a shootout. It didn't go the way they wanted it to. And then, game two happens and it's just, the offense not showing up and the bullpen blowing it. And then today, the offense not showing up, and then you have the starting pitcher blowing it. And then your defense is not quality. So you just had like a lot of things going wrong in a series here, like you mentioned, against a contender, a team you've played in the playoffs before a few years ago. It's a team that you very easily could see once again, and the New York Mets still cannot hit you, Darvish. It does not matter how old he is. It doesn't matter how injured he is. It doesn't matter how high his ERA is. The Mets cannot hit you, Darvish. It's just like a reality of life. It's just a thing. So we have to just accept it at this point because they're not going to do anything about it. So when you have all those things going together combined, it is very frustrating, especially when, despite the final score as far as like the Padres getting 7 runs the first 2 games and 5 runs game 3, they were winnable games. I mean, it's just important to note what the scores were before what the scores became. I mean, you're looking at game 1, the Mets were up 5-1 going into the bottom of that 5th inning and then give up those 5 runs in that inning. Frankie Montas, he comes back out there not able to get it out. Huskar Brosman comes in, does him no favors, absolutely no favors, giving up a ton of hits. And then you have Alonso doing no favors with another lollipop throw that you miss out at first base. That extends the inning. So it's just all these things combined lead to these 5-run innings. And there's just nothing the Mets could do about it because the new guys aren't here yet. This is just where they're at with the bullpen. So Rico Garcia comes in. He's excellent. And then one of your new acquisitions, Gregory Soto, he comes in and he's throwing the ball away on a bunt. It's just, stuff like that that's so frustrating. While you're seeing Vientos hit a grand slam, Mauricio hits a massive home run off Suarez, and you see the disparity in how important it is to have a really good bullpen that the Padres do. You definitely saw it in game 1 and game 2. I mean, we talked about it going into the series the other day, but between Peralta and Moran and Estrada and Adam and Suarez, like the Padres had all these wonderful arms that they just throw onto, and you can't do anything about it. Now, we're hoping that after today, the Mets bullpen will be similar to that they're going to have like arm after arm that's really solid and can shut you down. Because when you get into games like this where it's tight, your bullpen just can't be wasting the starts. And it was especially in particular, we go to game 2 of Manaea, where Manaea's pitching great, 5 innings, 1 run, and it's like it's a 1-1 game. Like it's anybody's game. And then you just go to the bullpen, disaster. I mean, immediate disaster. And I felt like Manaea was signaling to the dugout with a 1. I don't know if he was saying we the ones, acknowledge the tribal chief, or if he was saying 1 more inning, which is what I think he was saying. But they decided not to. I understand it. Don't want to push him. They need him. But it was just so frustrating that like Manaea gives you this wonderful start just for it to be totally wasted. Again, defense not great in that game 2 error today. I mean, it was just like so many different things going on. And although the Mets have, now we're going to talk about it, added Rogers, added Helsley, great, that's wonderful. However, that doesn't help when you're scoring 1 run yesterday and 0 runs today. That does 0 for that aspect of the game. Now, the hitter that we've been talking about since the last episode, he had 3 hits today in the win against the Phillies from center field. Does he come in and fix the offense? No. Can he make it better? Definitely, because we saw finally for one of the first times, Jeff McNeil had a really rough center field. Especially, I think it was either game one or game two, where those balls were just kind of falling in front of him, and he's like not quite able to get there. Yet the typical troll Mets put Acuna in center field at the end of yesterday's game, and he makes a diving catch. And it's like, and we've been talking about it, but like, why don't you have Acuna in center field more often to begin with his speed, and you have McNeil out there? Beats me. I mean, if Acuna could hit, that would help.
Yep.
He's probably on his way out, by the way. But I mean, just overall, it's just like you saw a lot of flaws kind of show up for the Mets. Another big flaw is, and we haven't really talked too much about it, but Lindor and Alonso, two worst hitters in the league this past month or so. That's a big issue because we know how much this offense can be carried by them. Juan Soto with a foot bruise, that doesn't help either. So there was just a lot of things going against them in this series, and it's just frustrating because like game one was so winnable, and you would feel a little bit better about this series if they were able to get that first game, because then when you saw just how not close it was in game two in the later innings, and then today it was just never close to begin with. It was just very frustrating overall. Now, it's going to be better. I mean, hopefully we kind of got it out of our system. Our team is already improved, and there's going to be more improvement tomorrow, so we would think. But just overall, it's like, there's still more work to be done as far as, you want to, because now the expectation when you're trading top 10 prospects with this payroll, we're talking about World Series. Like, that is what the focus is right now. So if that's the case, there are things that need to be cleaned up. Now, we saw the Mets sweeping the Giants, the way it affected them. They sold Rodgers to us. There could be more pieces sold on the way. Now, on the flip side, with the Padres sweeping us, are they maybe less likely to trade a Dylan Cease or a Suarez? Like, how does that affect the Padres market as far as buying and selling? Because with what we've seen, with what the Mets gave up, what the Phillies gave up for Duran, if you have a reliever that is trade worthy, do it. Like, trade them, because the market right now for relievers is so extremely high that you've got to capitalize on that. So maybe Suarez gets moved for the Padres, maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I don't know what the deal is. Obviously, the Mets, there are also a contending team. So, the Padres being able to sweep us, I mean, maybe there is a boost there of what they do with Dylan Cease. I think Dylan Cease is a little bit different of a situation, obviously, with him being represented by Scott Boras, and them probably knowing they're going to lose him in free agency, getting something back for him, and then more of the financial situation that they are in. I think it's a little bit different out of context, but I think that they're also in the running for Robert as well. So I do think that they're also a possibility for him, along with the Phillies and along with us. I think those are the top three at this current moment. But again, it's one of those things from this series. It pretty much just showed you basically three different series, three different games of some of the problems that we have had in a consistent basis. The first game, we had, the bullpen giving away free bases, the defense giving away free bases, and they were not able to, twice in that first game, they were not able to put it away. They were up 5-1, and there was just a complete meltdown. You had in that second game, the runners in scoring position issue. They just didn't hit whatsoever. Bullpen gave it away, but it's whatever. And then today, you had Clay Holmes struggle to get deep into the game and having to gas up the bullpen as well. And then also the hitting was absolutely non-existent. So it pretty much just showed all the flaws that have been with this Mets team all year, and it led to a sweep. That's basically what you saw. Some people were saying in the chat, they were talking about Braziban not covering first base. I mean, yeah, obviously he has to with Pete making a dive near the first base line, and that pretty much snowballed things continuously. But they still had the lead by that time.
But also, Pete could throw the ball much harder, and then it's up to Brosman to run to the bag, because I feel like because Brosman was going so slow, Pete went so slow, and that situation is just like you're making it worse by both being slow at the same time.
Yeah. And then the play by Soto, obviously throwing wide of the bag. I mean, that was the killer right there. That was pretty much the killer. That's basically just what shows you when you give away free outs, you're going to pay for it. It will continue, especially against teams that are good hitting teams. They will continue, to punish you for those types of things. And we know that the Mets are capable of more. Lindor and Alonso, I don't know what is going on with those two, but they have to snap out of it really quick. Lindor is taking some awful swings. Pete Alonso is completely lost and looking like 2024 Alonso. So again, we're going to need them to step up. And I don't know how much weight they're going to have to carry with Juan Soto being in this certain situation where he might be a little bit banged up. But it just was not a good offensive series. Defensively, it was a mess. The bullpen had quite a few shortcomings. The starting rotation was not the best. All around, the Mets just got completely outplayed by the Padres in this series. And it sucks because this is a team that they likely could be playing in the playoffs. And you would like to see how they match up with them. Is it a little bit of a sliver of hope that, the Mets struggled all year with the Brewers and ended up beating them in the playoffs and things like that? Sure. But the Mets barely beat the Brewers. Again, there was still some rough, still a rough road to get to it. So again, I know a lot of people have been saying 10 years ago that before the deadline, we were playing the Padres and playing like shit. That, again, take it as you will.
Different,
but
totally different.
Completely different team.
Yeah.
Completely different team. Different expectations, and I don't think, as much as I think that guy from the White Sox will contribute, I don't think I don't think he will be Cespedes level.
That's acquired. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think he will be Cespedes level. So again,
which it seems like, outside of Eugenio Suarez, that bat might not even be out there. But what I will say is that someone like Rogers, and this is what I mentioned at the end of our last episode, was a lot of times the Mets get the guy that they're not linked to, the guy that's not talked about. So getting Rogers is someone that we didn't really talk too much about at all. And it could, if there was a bat that they do pursue, maybe it is someone who's not being talked about. Maybe it is just kind of out of nowhere. You know what? Could it be? I don't even know. I think it was John Heyman said if he's willing to move to center, but somebody like Stephen Kwan, that's a guy that, he doesn't help with the power, but he can do a lot of things for you offensively. He can be a big piece. So is that something they look at?
I don't know. I hope it's not, because I just think it would be a little bit redundant in a guy like Stephen Kwan. But, we'll get into these moves that they did make. We know that there has been reports regarding the bats, and we are seeing it probably is a little bit more of a guarantee now that the Mets are going to acquire a bat, and it most likely will be in center field. Who will that be? I don't know. It could be one of two guys that have been talked about, or one of three guys that have been talked about. We'll see what happens again within those next 24 hours. But overall, not a great series. But let's just try to close this one out the best way we know, with studs and duds. One player that was good in this series that we want to give flowers to. One that we want to hold accountable in the dud category. Frank, I will swing it back to you, your stud for this series.
Yeah, I got to give it to the guy who was the main topic going into that game, especially the first game, Mark Vientos. Carson and I, before game one on our last episode, we debated about Vientos for probably like a half hour about should you keep him, should you let him go? And Vientos answers with a 2-hit game, one of them being a grand slam. Could have been a 2-home run game, an overall 3-hit game, but then when no one else could hit you, Darvish, he got a hit today, he got a hit yesterday, and he was even having hard outs. So this power that apparently was gone all of a sudden came back by hitting home runs and by making hard contact on a lot of different pitches. So he hit the ball over the field, left, center, right. He looked a lot more like the guy that I was like, man, you kind of want to hold on to this guy. So he was clearly very aggravated by the trade rumors. It clearly bothered him, and he wanted to do something about it. So listen, if it was a motivation tactic, fair play, but overall, he made a strong case.
That's the right way to respond. Let's just say that, because it was definitely heating up a lot. And I was talking about it more of the sense of, if that is what they're asking for, I'd be willing to do it. Obviously, we don't need to get into that completely, but it seems like we're getting reports of another infielder that could be someone who's in that package as well, who I am 100% okay getting rid of because he's been garbage all year. So, anyways, Mark Vientos is a really good pick, obviously. I was going to originally give this to Rico Garcia, but he gave up his first earned run. But I am actually going to give it to Rico Garcia because likely he's one of the corresponding moves for one of these relievers, and I think that he's pitched okay. He's definitely filled in some really good innings for us, and saving up the bullpen. And he's gone out for some two inning performances too.
You think Deviansky survives over him?
Well, you got to get rid of two.
For Rogers is 1-for-1. I mean, he was hugging the team.
It is. So they were playing a short a man.
So then it's now Garcia or Deviansky for Helsley. But I put in the chat, maybe the Mets get one more reliever. I saw. So maybe Blackburn.
Keep it going.
About him, you could call Blackburn and put down Garcia as like long man. But they also talked about there's another option too. That one of the other things with saying down Braziban was to build him up to a multi-inning reliever to replace Budo's role. So you could hold on to one of those guys. Then when Braziban's arm is built back up, you call him back up. So there are a few different routes they could go with that last spot.
Yeah. Well, it should be interesting how they go with that. So, no, Rico Garcia has actually been pretty good in a small sample. Definitely filling in some of those innings. Let's just say that. Dud category, plenty. Got swept. So, yeah. Frank, back to you.
Yeah. As much as I want to take the obvious ones, I have to go with something else just because I think it's very important. Brett Beatty. I mean, you want to talk about fraud watch. He is on my radar. He's on full alert. This guy went hitless the whole series, constant groundouts, and the home and away numbers are just becoming more drastic. Away, Beatty is now hitting 164 with a 464 OPS. Like, that is not normal, guys, especially when you talk about Citi Field's your home ballpark. How in the world do you go from a 905 OPS at home to a 464 away? Like, I don't know what you do there because he is in the starting lineup every single day at this point. And like I said on the last episode, but you don't get to play all your playoff games on the road at home. So like you're going to play some road games. He's going to be in the lineup. Will he be able to contribute for you? Because right now it's looking like he cannot do it. So that is very concerning.
Well, they're going back home, so he'll just start hitting again. I don't know. I'm not even gonna get into Beatty anymore. I'm done with that conversation. I'm finished with it. But again, we've talked about the consistency before, and the way that he ended July was not great. It wasn't, especially when it was a stretch, especially in this West Coast swing, these 6 games where a lot of the young guys were on display. Vientos had a moment. Alvarez had some moments. Mauricio came up top, who was originally one of the topics that we had here before David Stearns wanted to hijack us and say, here are 2 insane relievers that I'm going to give here, talk about them. So, no, that's a good one. But Huskar Braziban pretty much snowballed that entire game yesterday. You can put Montas there because he wasn't even sharp either. Clay Holmes today, not great. On the offensive side, you do also have to... What? Budo, you can put him, but I won't kick the man while he's down. I'm sure he's a little emotional right now.
Is. I did not like what SNY did there. I mean, that was just kind of overkill. I mean, first camera shot, okay, but we only did it doing it for multiple innings.
They did it in 2015 with Wilmer Flores.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That was
I don't know.
I feel bad for the kids.
It's whatever. I mean, with Budo, yeah, he definitely had a rough outing too.
It's also literally his job. His role in the bullpen is middle relief, multi-inning. He's literally supposed to do multiple innings. So that's literally his job. And now someone else is going to take it. And can Braziban do it? We'll find out. But
yeah, and that probably just makes sure of the context of it. It's basically of why he's being stretched out to 40 pitches was because probably they were trading Budo. So let's actually get into that trade that he was involved in. The first domino to fall earlier today, and that was the Mets acquiring Tyler Rogers from the San Francisco Giants. So let's get a little bit of a run down of this funky submarine guy whose nails basically touch the dirt when he throws, because the Mets got to have that funk. Anyways, he has pitched 50 innings this year, and he has been remarkable. A 1.8 earned run average. Great contact manager, as I'm sure we know. For those of you who watch Pitching Ninja or follow Pitching Ninja, you probably know who this guy is. He throws from a submarine negative 60-degree arm angle, and that's basically allows him to have these reverse splits where left-handed hitters can't really touch him that much, and then right-handed hitters also get buckled as well from that insane deception that he has. He's 34 years old. He's a two-pitch sinker slider guy, obviously coming from different angles, but his stuff obviously grades out. You can see his stuff plus on his sinker is a 132. His stuff plus on his slider is a 105. So again, 2+ pitches right there. And he walks no one. Zilch, none. He has a 2.1 walk rate this year. Always has been like that. Again, great contact manager, 94th percentile in hard hit rate, 100th percentile in barrel rate this year, 99th percentile in average exit velocity. He gets a ton of chases, doesn't get swings and misses because, contact manager, 99th percentile in ground ball rate with a 64.4% ground ball rate this year. Of course, his slider has been pretty deadly with a 30, again, with him being a contact manager, a 30.4% whiff rate, which is pretty insane, especially when you're a contact manager, and then an expected weighted on base average or quality of contact of 222. He's a lanky, tall, 6'3", 34 years old, like we said, former 10th round pick by the San Francisco Giants. Now, as for what the Mets gave up, which I think kind of shocked everyone a little bit, and we'll get into as to what this package could possibly mean for them. The Mets sent over to the San Francisco Giants outfield prospect Drew Gilbert, who was acquired in the Justin Verlander trade 2 years ago, right-handed pitcher and prospect Blade Tidwell, who made a few starts this year and was a former draft pick of theirs a few years ago as well. And like we said, right-handed pitcher Jose Budo, who pitched his last game as a Met last night, right? Last night or game 2, was not fantastic. So either way, the Mets get Tyler Rogers. It may sound like a steep price, and we will get into it. However, from the get it because he throws. Okay. From the side of Tyler Rogers, definitely fills in some struggles that this bullpen has. Strike thrower, contact manager, can also make very quick work of hitters. He doesn't usually ride up like 30 pitch innings like some of our relievers do. Reed Garrett, I'm looking at you. But Frank, I'll go to you here. Obviously, the first addition being Tyler Rogers. I think this was a good start right here, adding into the depth of the bullpen and also some postseason experience too that you can add in as well for him.
Yeah, I mean, this trade is just really, really fascinating because it's like when you get the notification that the Mets are acquiring Tyler Rogers, you get super excited because you're like, oh my gosh, as you mentioned, this guy's nasty. We just saw him twice this weekend with the Giants, pitched really well, having a phenomenal year, consistently a really good reliever, which is hard to come by. And then you say, okay, well, you know what? Rogers, he's only a rental. He's a reliever. The Mets aren't going to give up much for him. And then when you see certain outlets say, oh, well, Mets gave up top 10 prospect Blade Tidwell and former top 10 prospect Drew Gilbert, in addition to a major league player in Jose Butto who was struggling, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. And this is the first trade of the reliever market for 2025, like big trade. And you're saying, wow, that is so much for a reliever as a rental. But then as you dig deeper and you think more about it, you realize how complicated trades could be when it comes to roster management, future roster management, and prospect rankings. So what one outlet may consider as a top 10 prospect, another place may not even consider them top 15, let alone even top 20. Some guys can have that much of a disparity. One list will put you at 10, another list will put you at like 21. I mean, that's something that can happen with prospects, but there are also other things there to be involved. It's not like, you know what, Blade, he's so young, eventually he'll figure it out, and then when he does, we'll call him up. You have a 40-man roster that you have to make sure you have 40 major league ready players, if possible, ready at all times. You also have the Rule 5 draft. You have to put your players on the 40-man roster to prevent other organizations from just flat out snatching them. So there are so many different factors you have to consider when you are building rosters for the long term that all of a sudden when you really, really, really think about it, the actual realistic futures of some of these pieces really are not on your team. And when you say all in, you say we are trying our best to win a World Series this season. As crazy as it sounds, rental reliever, we talked about for years, you don't do it. You don't give up a lot for relievers. You don't give up a lot for rentals. Those are two things we've said. And Stearns, who we have said is stingy, he does not give up big prospects. This is not what he does. It seemed so out of his element. We were like, what? What just happened here? But then as the day progressed on, we saw what the Phillies gave up for Duran, and then we'll get to Helsley next. And then all of a sudden, you don't feel as bad about it when you actually think about, okay, well, what was the future role? For Gilbert, he's not a center fielder. As much as we want him to be, he's not. You put him in a corner, Soto's got one for 15 years, Nimmo's got the other for a bunch. Where are you putting him? And he's not even doing that well in AAA. And then the same goes for Blade. I mean, Blade was a pitching prospect for the Mets, had high hopes for it. I've made videos about him for years, but then all of a sudden, a Nolan McLean showed up. And then a Jonah Tone came in, and there's still a Brandon Sproat and a Christian Scott. So then all of a sudden, you just get lower and lower and lower in the pecking order. And that's a credit to David Stearns that even though the development of the prospects has not been what we want to see, especially in the hitting department, guys who were top 10s that fall out of the top 10s, there is something to be said that the farm system is just much better now than it was when they originally acquired these players. With a guy like Carson Bench, who they drafted, he's top 5. He has basically gone ahead of Drew Gilbert. So it's like when you really think of the realistic futures and what can these specific players do for your team, especially in the near future, all of a sudden they didn't have much of a role.
Yeah. It definitely makes sense to me. Like this makes total sense, this trade. And I think that it's more of just the fact of the names that Mets fans have heard before is the main reason as to why they were freaking out. Obviously, does it sound like a lot to give up for a reliever? Sure, it may, because, 3 players for one, and that one player being somebody who probably will only pitch for one inning every 2 days. Yeah. That just that should be something that we talk about as a certain conversation. But one thing I will say here is you already brought it up. Drew Gilbert, I've been saying this for weeks on this show. I think he was always the most likely to be traded out of all of the kids. And yes, we've talked about Beatty, we've talked about Vientos, we've talked about Acuna, we've talked about Alvarez and Mauricio and all of these different guys. We've talked about so many different things. And yet, I still thought that Drew Gilbert was there. Again, like you said, Nimmo has one of the corners locked down, so does Soto. Center field, again, we'll see what they continue, and try to do here. I feel like with this whole entire situation with Drew Gilbert, he wasn't called up yet for a reason. This guy had an ETA of 2024. It's 2025 now. He's been hurt. He hasn't been great in AAA, which is a insane hitters environment. So again, if we do get into one of those conversations of Drew Gilbert and Blade Tidwell, same thing goes for Jose Butto. He's out of minor league options. Drew Gilbert, eligible to be put on the 40-man roster to be protected from the Rule 5 draft. They weren't going to do that. And then Blade Tidwell, right now, maybe is considered the team's 9th best pitching prospect at this moment. 8th. There's somebody maybe that they see as a certain bullpen guy. Again, that's one of those things that it's like, okay, analyze this, break this down. It makes sense why they moved on from these guys. It does make sense. Not to mention, Drew Gilbert was not brought in by David Stearns. Billy Tidwell was not brought in by David Stearns. Jose Butto was not brought in by David Stearns. He wasn't even brought in by Epler, I don't think. He's been with this team since he was 16 years old. And it was back when Sandy was here, I think, when he was signed as an international free agent. Either way, one thing I do want to say, thank you to Jose Butto. He had some really good stretches for this team. Had some tough ones as well. We know that the postseason did not bode well for him. But for him coming up here, the way that he developed into making a spot start for this team, being a long relief guy for this team, he definitely was a big part to this team for the last few years. So we do appreciate what he did. But this is, again, we've talked about this before. Baseball is a business, and sometimes you have to make decisions that are not as popular compared to, what the consensus would be. And they had to figure it out, and that was what they needed to do. But as for Taylor Rogers and the utilization of him, I feel like we're really starting to see not only the depth of this, but the certain situations that they can flip in and out of, and giving Carlos Mendoza a lot of different guys who could be put in these certain situations. Again, we have Gregory Soto, who can, dominate left-handed hitters. We have somebody like Brooks Raley, who can pitch to left-handed and right-handed guys. I was just glad to see them not say, well, Brooks Raley is our trade deadline acquisition, and maybe we add another guy to this bullpen. We just saw a report that the Mets probably could possibly add even more. I don't know if that is like more of a AAA thing, but we saw it before. We've seen it before with David Stearns. He builds bullpens. He's done it so many times. And for him to go out and do this, that means that he probably does believe that there are a few pieces away from being a contender, not to mention in a league right now where there's no dominant team. There really isn't. The Mets right now could lose 10 in a row and win 10 in a row. They could be the best team in baseball or one of the worst playoff contending teams, or 5 games out of the wild card. Like, that's how crazy it is, and how tight it is of where there's no dominant team. So it's completely a crapshoot right now, and the Mets can definitely go for it. And even though the Mets have not really gotten into, somewhat of a groove, and they haven't played much fluent baseball this year, they still are in a really good position to compete. So we'll see what happens on that. But again, one thing that really is a big factor in postseason success is the bullpen. And you need a good bullpen in the postseason. And that is very, very important. So to strengthen up the back end of the bullpen with a guy like Tyler Rogers, a guy like Ryan Helsley, which we'll get into in a second, I think that it kind of just tossed the narrative out the window that Stearns doesn't deal this guy or Stearns doesn't deal this guy. Last year, I was willing to be patient with it, and I talked about it. I was willing to be patient with it. If they want to evaluate what they have internally, please evaluate it internally. Please make the decisions. Don't do things impulsive. And then I said this year, if I see a similar deadline than we had last year, I'm going to get a little bit I'm going to get a little bit frustrated, and then I'm going to start to question what we are doing here. I don't think this is a similar deadline. We haven't even gotten to the deadline. This is not a similar deadline of the caliber of relievers that they have acquired so far. I mean, all three of these, or two of them, have been all-stars, right? Two of them, Soto and Helsley. Has Rogers been one? I don't know. Maybe he was this year.
No.
He has not been? All right, well, get rid of him. Anyways, again, this is building...
too, is that I did not even really realize this until they put it on the broadcast. He's been a reliever not that many years. He's got 400 career innings pitched. Like, this is a guy who, like, he's a reliever, but he's someone that you could use, like, multiple days in a week. He's not someone who, like, pitches one day, then can't use him for a couple of days.
He doesn't throw hard, but he throws from
he doesn't throw hard, but it's something
from an angle that makes your arm hurt. Yes.
But with the way we see the Mets overwork relievers, they basically need someone like this who can go multiple days for them. Because we know it's like, Brooks Ray, does he do multiple days in a row? Not usually. This guy, can he do, Reed Garrett, can he do multiple days in a row? Not ideal. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's nice to have that rubber arm too. Because like you said, like when you're building a bullpen, ideally you want stuff, sure. I mean, stuff is king, but you want so many different kinds of guys, different arm angles, different, one guy's right, one guy's left-handed, different pitch mix, velocity, a rubber arm, a guy goes multiple innings. You know, like you want to have all these different roles, an ideal bullpen. And with what Stearns is giving up, he's trying to build his ideal bullpen.
Yeah, he's definitely doing that again, and he's giving away some pieces that, again, whether they didn't have a future here or they weren't someone that they saw as getting that direct thing. Evan here coming in the chat saying last year they got Stanek, Brazoban, and Maton. This year they got Soto, Rogers, and Helsley. So yeah, it's definitely a different look right here. And I think that, again, depends on what they do for the bats, because last year, let's see if they can top Jesse Winker. We also had another addition that they made to the bullpen about an hour before we went live and like right after the game just ended in San Diego, and that being Ryan Helsley, who does not throw soft and throw funky like Rogers, but he throws complete gas as the Mets bring on the heat. Ryan Helsley from the St. Louis Cardinals has been acquired by the New York Mets in exchange for infield prospect Jesus Baez, right-handed pitching prospect Nate Daum, and right-handed pitching prospect Frank Elisalt. Now, the Mets, obviously, it seems like both of these deals have been a three moving part deal. Now, Ryan Helsley looks like a rental at this current moment. We'll see what they look at going forward, but this is going into more of this playoff race right here. And yeah, he throws not... Jesus. Yeah, I mean, so you can see that I was... Yeah, he does throw 999 miles an hour. He throws 99.3 miles an hour on his fastball. My bad. Again, I was definitely rushing this because it came very, very close to the transaction happening. So it came very close, so I must have jammed the key or something. I don't know. But again, he has been prioritizing his slider this year, which is a little bit more high spin. It's a hard slider, obviously, which I'm pretty sure can touch the 90s. It obviously has some arm side movement that he loves to throw to left-handed pitchers. Has great command of it. His fastball as well, he has a great command of it, which again can reach that, the triple digits as we have seen. It's this over the top 63 degree arm angle. Now this year, and it's kind of always been like this with Helsley, he's definitely given up a lot of hard contact. Always has been in that certain regard. A little bit similar to Ryan Stanek in that, where he can spam strikes. Guys can pick him up a little bit, but he still does have that swing and miss stuff. He's able to induce ground balls, unlike a guy like Ryan Stanek at a 46.5% ground ball rate this year. Gets a lot of chases, like we've said, with that slider that he has been utilizing a lot this year. And then, of course, it's paired with a high triple digits fastball which has over almost 18 inches of induced vertical break. VAA hovering over 4, like we have said before. He has really good command of it. He does not throw at 999 miles an hour, but he throws at 99.3 miles an hour on average, and that's pretty much the two pitches that he does throw. He does have a curve. He does have a cutter. Has an even 3 earned run average this year, so maybe not as elite as he once was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but still pretty damn good. So the Mets give up 3 prospects, 2 of them that were drafted by David Stearns last year, that in Nate Dahm and Frank Ellisalt. Nate Dahm was the 3rd round pick. Ellisalt was, I believe, 18th round pick. Jesus Baez was a international signing who was doing pretty well, actually, in the lower levels, but he's definitely years away. Yes, other than not throwing 999 miles an hour, again, great move, great addition, and just makes this bullpen more scary. And again, if you're going all in, this is the way to do it. We've talked about it with the bullpen. But Frank, Ryan Helsley, I mean, we've talked about him before. We've talked about him in the caliber of guys like Edwin Diaz, other guys like in the Camilo Doval and those hard throwing electric guys. Obviously, Diaz doesn't throw as hard anymore due to that injury he had a few years ago. But guys like Ryan Helsley, one of the hardest throwers in the game, up there with Mason Miller, who I guess he's likely going to be in the 8th inning. So, I mean, quite an acquisition. Let's just say that, on top of another guy, Tyler Rogers, who is having a phenomenal year as well for the Giants. So, again, I think that they've definitely have been up to the task with filling up this bullpen that has definitely needed some reinforcements after this recent stretch where they've been tired out a lot.
Definitely upgraded, no doubt about it. And like I said, when I saw the package for Rogers, and then shortly after the Phillies acquired Yohan Duran, you want to talk about a hard-throwing reliever, Duran is very high up there. And I saw what they gave up, number 4 prospect, number 6 prospect, one of them a starting pitcher, Mick Abel, major league ready, made his debut this season. And then the catcher that the Phillies gave up, a top 100 prospect in all of baseball for Duran. Now, Duran has a couple years of control, but Helsley, he's another rental. But when I saw the Mets guy Helsley, I was like, oh my gosh, who did we give up for this one? I was like, What's this return going to be? And then the first name we see is Jesus Baez, and I know he's a top 10 prospect. He's got power, he has talent, he's someone that has potential, infielder, and I was like, oh, we're starting off with that. I was like, geez, I hope it's not more than him. And then we see the rest, and it's not the other 2 prospects they gave up, not really household names. So I was like, okay, exhale. So overall, I think, considering what this reliever market is going to be, I actually think the Mets made out all right here as far as what they gave up. Jesus Baez remains to be seen. It is always tough with prospects, especially Mets developing hitting prospects. That's something that still needs to happen. But Helsley, like you mentioned, perfect. I mean, he could make saves for you. You need to bring him in the 8th inning. You need to bring him in the 9th inning. Those as hard as anybody. 2-time All-Star, not having his best season. I mean, a little bit of a down year compared to the previous years as far as results, but like you showed, the stuff is still there. So I am curious to see how he is going to do in the setup role, because that's not always a guarantee with relievers. I mean, we've seen it before with some other teams, even the Mets. I hate to bring it up, but there was a year when we built our Super Bullpen. It was Francisco Rodriguez, who was coming off of a historic season, and JJ Putz, and it didn't go as planned when you brought in 2 closers. So you hope, I just, like a Met fan, you always think the worst, but I hope that Helsley, that's not the case. He is like his dominant self, because to your point, if you can form a back end of the bullpen that is like Rogers, Helsley, Diaz, then in middle relief you have Rayleigh with Gregory Soto, plus you have Garrett and Stanek, and then maybe somebody else, or then you have a Moltane guy in Broadsbon, or a super long man in Paul Blackburn, or maybe eventually the postseason Clay Holmes is in the bullpen. So like all of a sudden you just see so many different weapons that you could have in that bullpen. So it is just very exciting, especially when it's like back to back like that. It's like you get Rogers, and then like an hour or so later, boom, Helsley's in there. So
Yeah.
it's been a very eventful day in the bullpen. We know there's still more work to be done. We're going to get into it. But overall, I mean, just definitely two exciting, much needed additions when you saw the way the bullpen performed in this series. Like, it was really nice to see something where it's like, we see that's a weakness. We are addressing it. We are taking care of it. And you hope that the results are going to be better going forward than they were before.
Yeah, again, and like I said, with the whole narrative of the holding down the prospects and things like that, I was one that held true to it, and I was like, okay, they're going to address things internally, they're going to see what they have, and they're going to try and make a move, and they're going to try to figure some things out. As I'm pretty sure, did a move just drop? I don't know. Did we get another? Did the
No, I just put it in the chat. The Padres are being aggressive. They're
Oh,
looking at
okay.
Jared Duran, Quan, and we're talking about relievers and Mason Miller. They're looking at that. So you want to talk about Super Bullpen? The Padres already have it. So looking at Mason Miller, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
That's
I don't think it's gonna. I don't think that there's gonna be a good enough price in order for the A's to let him go. I know that he's struggled a little bit this year, but
But
I don't
mean,
know. We'll see.
Preller is aggressive. I mean, you want to talk about a
He
team
is.
that has high expectations. He's committed. Another organization that's committed so much money to their team that like the expectations are very high. So, and if they feel like the Dodgers are vulnerable this year, they feel like this is their best chance. They're gonna go for it. So it's interesting. I mean, it's now you're starting to see markets really heat up. You're seeing the contenders really get involved. So I think, like you said, we are in store for hopefully a very eventful day tomorrow.
Yeah. Again, and we are counting down the hours. I think we're at 21 hours to go here because we're 3 hours into the 24-hour mark. So again, it's getting to a point where the Mets. Obviously, they responded to the Phillies who just got Yohan Duran. They get that, and then maybe the Padres are trying to respond by getting Mason Miller. I don't know if that's what they're trying to do, but they also already have a really good bullpen. There's a lot that is riding on a certain position of center field that I think is being looked at. Could they be doing something in the starting rotation? I don't know, but we'll see what the other moves look like. I think that center field looks to be something that they do a little bit more commonly. Like I said, I think that starting pitching is a little bit less popular and less possible right now. But we'll see how aggressive they are because they were very aggressive dealing away 6 pieces already for 2 bullpen arms who are pretty well known and can definitely just slide right into the back end of that bullpen. Now, there was some other stuff that we can put out there. Obviously, the Luis Robert news continuing to flow. The Mets are involved with that. The Phillies are involved and the Padres are involved. Like we said, there has been reports that have come out that maybe Luis Angel Acuna is in that package instead of somebody like Mark Vientos. There's been talks about Jeff McNeil maybe getting moved. There has been stuff, it's Andy Martino. Take it as you will because it could change. But that could be similar because there has been stuff of them talking about Brandon Lau. Or Brandon Lau. So he would play second base, or maybe he's in center field, or they go after somebody else in center field who's a little bit lower caliber, and they get Brandon. Like, there's been a lot of guys that the Mets have been attached to over these last 48, 72 hours. So we'll see what happens there. I'm interested. We've even seen some stuff about Starling Marte, them taking calls on him. So it's cool to see a little bit of retool as well, because usually they give up prospects when they are buying. When you see a little bit of a retool and a little bit of a point of MLB ready guys going outward, like Jose Butto, who was a major league piece. We'll see. We'll see what happens in that. I think that one of the kids is going to get dealt within these next 24 hours. Who will that be? I think more are more common than others. I think Alvarez and Mauricio are not going to get moved. Out of Beatty, I think it's 50-50 with him. We'll see what happens there. And then Vientos and Acuna, I think, are the most likely. Acuna being the most likely, of course. So we'll see what they do here. I'm very, very interested now that you're seeing multiple reliever acquisitions where we're like, I was expecting them to get two. I wasn't expecting them to get this caliber. I wasn't expecting them to make two moves in the same day after getting Gregory Soto. So Soto, Rogers, Helsley already is the deadline right now. All relievers, which is usually what happens near the trade deadline where relievers go first. But this reliever market has been insane. The Mets were able to respond to Yohan Duran going to the Phillies, even though Duran is definitely better than Helsley.
And has years of control. The Mets got two.
And has years of control, has a lot more trade value there, but the Mets definitely got the job done with the fact that they also have their closer already. And then the back end of this bullpen, it definitely got a little bit more heavy and more intimidating. Let's just say that. And we've talked about it of having lefties and having righties. You have Edwin Diaz, who throws from a 20-degree arm angle. You have Rogers, who throws from a -60 arm angle. Then you have Helsley, who throws from a high 63-degree launch angle. So arm angle. So you basically have like three different directions on a clock right now as your back end. So they're definitely different looks from the right side. So that is definitely something that we've seen David Stearns do before. I'm a little bit surprised that he didn't go for any of these like slide slinging lefties. I was surprised that Rogers' brother, Taylor Rogers, was not on his radar because he was somebody that I think he did trade for in the Josh Hader trade a few years ago as well. So again, this is looking like a good bullpen.
Pirates might reroute him. So I wouldn't totally rule it out. I mean, the brothers have pitched together before on the Giants, but I mean, the other Rogers could get moved again. Not saying to the Mets, but he could be moved.
They got moved on the same day. That's wild, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And it's happened before in Major League history. I mean, I remember having the 1800s. It happened, in the 1930s. So it's not the first time it's happened.
Yeah, exactly. That will be another move in a series of culture-changing moves. For those of you who know that reference, good luck, because I don't think you would know it. That's basically just between me, Evan, and Matt, and I'm sure that we're going to be cracking a lot of those jokes. By the way, so that reveals one of the guests right there, Evan and Matt. Thing. It's definitely a Rangers thing. Yeah, yes, it's definitely a Rangers thing, and it definitely has a certain shirt to it. But anyways, yeah, we will see again. Game 4 talking about will Gilbert start with the Giants or with their AAA team? We'll see. I don't know because they'll have a decision to make on him too. Because like we said, he's Rule 5 eligible. So do they keep him around? I don't know. We'll see. I am seeing a lot of people panic saying that this is the next PCA move. Let's relax, folks. PCA is not 25 years old and already has an expiring ETA. So again, it's whatever. Also, two of these pieces that were brought in and taken out by the Rogers trade, two of those pieces were brought in by Billy Epler. We all know how much we love him. So I don't trust his judgment. So if that is, guys that they bring in, it's whatever. Anyways, for every PCA, there are 1,000 of Kellenics. Exactly. That's basic. That is a very good way to look at it. Let's just say that. But anyways, we will see what is in store for this trade deadline coming up. Obviously, some other stuff that we can maybe get into. We saw a lot about going with the reliever department. I don't know if they're adding another one. It would be crazy if they did. But we'll see what happens there. But on the bat market, we have seen some stuff about Luis Robert, like we've said. We have seen some stuff about Cedric Mullins as well. They have been attached to. We've seen Ramon Laureano pop up a little bit, who is, I think, also a rental, right? He would be. He would be a rental. He is also an Oriole as well, and he's having a really good season. Weighing out those guys on the big board there, I think Robert probably is the best fit for what the Mets need. Mullins is a little bit safer, but the bat is not anything impressive. Laureano, the bat is definitely been good this year, but can be streaky at times, and also his defense has definitely regressed.
He actually has a club option for next year at $6 million.
Okay, that's
Laureano.
probably the main reason as to why his value is starting to get up and his value. But center field, we've talked about it already before. We talked about Robert. But Frank, is there anything else that you would add into that bat category? We've seen Brandon Lau as well from the Rays. Lou. Whatever you want to call him these days. And somebody asking, and speaking of outfield, Mike saying, can Starling Marte play center field? He can barely play right field anymore. If you were watching last night on that weird hop down the first base line, that was it against Budo or against Brazaban that gave the Padres the lead on that Jackson Merrill RBI triple. Marte took forever to get to that ball. And also just had a awful throw in right field as well. So he can't play the outfield anymore. I don't even think he can step on a field anymore. He's basically just a DH at this point.
It was bad circumstance with you see Soto go down with injury, then Tyrone Taylor gets pinch hit for with Marte, so you had no outfielders left. But apparently Acuna's outfielder now. But regardless, they wanted to keep a bat in the lineup.
Were they just showcasing Acuna for the White Sox?
The game.
I don't know.
I firmly believe they were. That was way too much of a coincidence to me. Way too much of a coincidence. Like, Mets are in discussions for a center fielder, and the guy you're talking about, you put him in center field the same day. Like, that's not coincidence, right? When we've been talking, and this is the second time Acuna been center field for the Mets, but I've been talking about since off season, like, put Acuna in center. He's played there in AAA. He has speed. Don't put McNeil. Put Acuna. And then they wait until like a couple days before Dylan actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's what to be honest, I would never be sitting here and fighting for Luis Angel Acuna to be getting playing time because I just don't think that he's earned it at all. And again, I'm not big on McNeil playing center field. I'm not big on McNeil being on this team at all because, he's just, terrible person. But, we'll see how they address this. I think that they're going to make a decision on one of these young guys. They've gotten a decent amount of leeway this season. We've seen a lot of Beatty. We've seen a lot of Vientos. We have seen a lot of, we have seen a decent amount of Acuna to know what he is. So we'll see. We'll see how they make these decisions.
So
now Mauricio is playing every day.
Week. And like we've said, yes. I mean, you can't keep, two third basemen, two DHs. Like, eventually the roster kind of needs to make sense.
The construction needs to be a little bit better. Yeah.
And in a certain extent, they're a little fortunate with the Winker and Siri injury because those would be two more major league players that you'd be trying to find a spot for, and then you would have even more of a log jam in a lot of different positions. So in a certain way, they've been kind of fortunate for the young players' sake that they haven't been their hand has been too forced to make a move earlier. But like you said, now we're not playing around. I mean, we're trading prospects. We're going all in. Like, we have got to decide if you are in the playoffs, can you play for us or can you not play for us? And that's what it comes down to. And Acuna, like I said, I think he's first man up. I think the deal for the White Sox with Robert makes a ton of sense in that aspect. Acuna for Robert, that's fine. Wex, your boy, he's been talking about Gutierrez, who got pulled, and he could also be in that package for Acuna. No, I'm sorry, the package for Robert, so it could be Acuna and Gutierrez.
The catcher?
Is that
who he's talking about?
Yeah, I believe that's who he's talking about. So
okay, yeah.
That'd be an interesting one. But, overall, like I said, with Beatty, I don't know what's going on there because, to me, I just feel like if the season plays out and it continues to be so, like, he's really good at home but really bad on the road, he becomes much more of a situational player. And he's
not even that great at home. Like, he's above average at home. Like, I'm pretty sure he's a 106 bat at home. So it's like...
No, it's higher than that. No, it's higher than that. His OPS is over 900 at home, so it's got to be higher than 106. But just overall, like, okay. If he has to start home playoff games, I guess, but maybe a pinch hitter at home, maybe. But again, that's
I can't have a home player and an away player.
Exactly.
Like, come on,
really
like this is insane.
Not in baseball. It's not a sport where you could just rotate guys in and out during the game. Like in basketball, if you have a guy who only shoots well at home, or you could put him in for the home games and take him out. But baseball, like you're in or out kind of thing. Like there's not much.
He's 106 against righties. He's 106 against righties.
Okay.
He's 159 at home. Okay, so there you go. Thank you for that. Okay.
No problem. But as far as like Mauricio, like you see potential there, but he struggles against lefties. So it's like we're just seeing a lot of like, yeah, they have talent, but they're bad at home, but they're bad against lefties. So it's like still just not the full package that you'd want from an everyday position player. But I think what's going on in center field between Robert, Mullins, and Laureano, I think that's the order of like priority for the Mets. It's like they're trying for Robert, but so are the Phillies. And the Phillies have Dombrowski running their organization, who is like the total opposite of Stearns. He is not afraid to move prospects. He already did today for a reliever. Like he has a reputation for doing that, not only with Philadelphia, but for other organizations he's worked for. So if I'm a team making a trade, that's not the person I want to be in a bidding war for. But I mean, we have to go by Bob Nightingale's report that both teams like Robert, but the Mets like him more. So, we'll kind of see who wins that bidding war. If the Phillies win it, I do believe the pivot is Cedric Mullins because he's more of a natural center fielder. Whereas with Ramon Laureano, that is a former center fielder who's currently a corner that you're then moving to center field, and he doesn't have his steroids anymore. So he's been good this season. He was
and
good
he doesn't
season,
play a good center field anymore.
and he doesn't play a good center field. So it's like you upgrade your offense in a certain extent, but it's still like those guys are just much more natural fits of center fielders who provide something offensively. With Robert, he's heating up, and all of a sudden he saw they might get traded, and maybe that like reinvigorated his energy, and now he wants to be really good again. I hope, but we'll see. So I think
killing the Phillies is a selling point for me. If you want to kill the Phillies, that's a selling point for me. Okay,
and actually, I don't know if you saw, but there's quotes that like Ryan Helsley a million years ago talked about he does not like the Braves. So that's awesome. I mean, we already got. Yeah, you got to check that out. So that's
match made in heaven.
I know that's another bonus.
What's good?
But I think seeing the way they approached the Tyrone Taylor thing yesterday, where like they just brought him into the game and bases loaded, was it like the fifth inning by that point, and they pulled him, that tells you how they feel about him right now. Like, and just the fact that McNeil has been starting so many games in center field, it's very obvious that there is a need for center field, and I feel like they have to come away with some center fielder by the time the trade deadline rolls around.
I mean, with the trading of Drew Gilbert, I think that pretty much just put the stance on it. Like they're going for a center fielder. They're going for it. They're going to try and find one. If it ends up being a shitty one, I don't know. Seeing some Stephen Kwan in the chat as well. Again, I don't know if that's a move. Something breaking.
Here you go, Cars. No, this is from MLB Rumors. Astros talked with Mets about Jeff McNeil, Brett Beatty, and Ronnie Mauricio. We know the Astros have also talked to the Twins about Carlos Correa, so that's an interesting one because want to talk about pitching.
Wow.
The Astros have a million pitchers, so if that's their starting pitcher, because that's the one thing we haven't really talked about yet, with how Clay Holmes pitched today, you can't totally rule out one of the
there's a concern there.
Yeah, and in general, we would like a six-man rotation with the way this team is set up with Senga and Minaya and Montas. I mean, even Montas, how much do we trust him? Move Holmes to the pen. Like, I can't totally rule out a starter. So if you want to talk like Beatty for a starting pitcher from the Astros, I'm good with that. But there's also some talks. I can't remember which reporter said it at this point, but it was like if the Mets don't get a starting pitcher at the deadline, maybe they do call up someone like Jonathan as the starting pitcher 3. So like we've said before, the pitching, especially the starting rotation, is a million times easier to solve internally with what the Mets have in their farm system compared to the hitting, which they do not have options right now.
Yeah, I will tell you one thing. If this is a starting pitching type of conversation here, I would do anything for Hunter Brown. I'm just saying. I would do anything for that man. Like, I love Hunter Brown. I think the guy is like the next Justin Verlander. Like, that's how good I think he is. I would do anything to, get my hands on him as well. We know that there is one pitcher in their rotation as well who's about to be an expiring free agent, I think, at the end of next year in Framber Valdez. Could that be another piece, maybe, that is talked about? We haven't heard anything yet. But it's interesting to see the Astros talking to the Mets about people because these are two teams that are competing. Both of these teams are
Yes.
at the top
I
of their
mean,
division.
yeah, exactly.
So
Both two first place teams. So that's one of those ones like you were talking about where you're looking at like a major league level deal where you're trading major league players for major league players. So at that point,
yeah,
you're talking about, in a certain sense, it's more so for the Astros, but it's surplus. So it's like you have a bunch of pitchers, we have a bunch of infielders. Let's help each other and that kind of thing. So
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. I don't know. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I am not going to sit here and get my hopes up that Jeff McNeil will be moved, okay? I'm not going to sit here and get my hopes up. Because, again, Jeff McNeil this year has been a really good contributor. He's also been a lot more of a trooper than he's ever been, to be honest. Willing to play center field, willing to be in a lot of these different roles the way that he has, and he's also contributed well. But to see Stearns be like, okay, maybe I could get some value here and maybe give some of because like, again, someone in that infield's got to go. And if you don't want to get rid of one of the young guys because you feel like there's a little bit higher of a ceiling, you don't want to get rid of Beatty, you don't want to get rid of Mauricio, Vientos, you don't want to get rid of. I don't know why there would be such a fight over Luis Angel Acuna, but he's got the same last name of a superstar who also suffered another injury yesterday, by the way. So prayers to him. But, speedy recovery. I think it was also I think it was an Achilles injury because he's had 2 ACLs
So
in his
they
Achilles
said
injury.
initially it looked like Achilles, but now it looks more calf. So looks like the Achilles injury was avoided.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, it's good news, even though that's a division rival. Acuna is one of the stars in the game, so makes the game a lot better when he is on the field. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm interested, very very interested. Could it be McNeil? Could it be Beatty? I hope it's not Mauricio because Mauricio I think is the closest thing to them being being their next third baseman. I do think again.
Him in that ballpark, like I know we've mentioned like the very vague, or other people mentioned I should say because I have not said this, Yordan Alvarez comparisons with Ronnie Mauricio. It's like, put them in the same ballpark and it's like MASH Central. So I think like the way you're like, oh, I don't want Mauricio, like that's who the Astros want the most. So that's kind of what
they probably
like,
do because he's.
I
think he's the best.
Valdez,
best
like I don't know. I don't see the.
I think
Astros
he's
trade
better
their
than
ace,
Beatty.
though. Like that's kind of crazy. So
I think Mauricio is better than Beatty. I always have thought that Mauricio is better than Beatty. You know that I do. But again, and Mauricio, we've talked about Beatty's defense being a contributor. Mauricio has been better defensively than Beatty. He is second among third basemen in outs above average this year.
Hayes, who got traded literally for his defense. So, I mean, yeah, that's very impressive, especially as a new position.
But Brett Beatty, Golden Boy Brett Beatty, can't get rid of him. But I don't know. I like Ronnie better. I know Ronnie's a little bit more rough around the edges. There's a lot more swing and miss. But it's not like Brett Beatty is anything other than disciplined as well.
Brett Beatty swings and it goes into the ground. So
yeah. Beatty's also 25. Ronnie Mauricio is coming off of an injury and still has a little bit more time, and they want to give him a little bit more leeway. Again, we'll see. Again, we've talked about this so many times about how many infielders that they have on this team. They have a lot. They have a lot of infielders on this team. And eventually we knew that they were going to have to address it. Is this the year that they do it? Is it something in the offseason? I don't know. But Jeff McNeil does have a very movable contract. He has a very flexible contract. Could it be him? Could it be Beatty? Could it be Ronnie Mauricio? Could it be Soto on the move? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the only way McNeil gets moved is if they get Brandon Lau. That's the only way Lau makes sense to me. Is that like the Mets are taking calls for McNeil, and they're like, well, we got to get somebody in return. And Tampa's so willing to trade position players that with money.
I think they're on center field. I think center field is their eye on that.
In the meantime, it's like if you could get something for McNeil, like a pitcher in this case, I was talking about the Astros. Like if you get the starting pitcher from the Astros, then you make the trade. It's like a bunch of different deals, but it's like I'm trying to think. There was a trade this week like with catchers that was like one team traded for a catcher, and then like 20 minutes later they got a catcher. So it could be something like that. It was something I think like with the Mariners. No, it wasn't the Mariners. Something like the Rays and all them. The Brewers. I think it was the Brewers actually. They made a trade for the catcher, and the Marlins were involved, and it was like a whole spiral. like a domino
I'm just
effect.
glad that there is talks about them understanding what this team is, like what there has been in terms of all of these guys, like with McNeil or with Beatty or like with this infield of how crowded it is. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to even see some stuff about Starling Marte, maybe with him being an expiring free agent. I don't think that's going to end up happening because I don't think that they're just going to be like, well, let's get a center fielder, let's get a DH, and let's also get a starting pitcher. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're either going to get one more addition tomorrow or maybe there's two. I don't know. But just saying, we've seen plenty of guys. The starting pitching hasn't been talked about. The market's pretty cold on the starting pitching. We know that it has been. Guys like Sandy Alcantara or Alcantara, whatever we're calling him these days. Zach Allen has been talked about. Dylan Cease has been talked about. There's been plenty of guys. What happened?
Merrill Kelly's been talked about.
Merrill Kelly has been talked about, yes.
Mitch Keller has been talked about.
Mitch Keller's been talked about. Charlie Morton has been talked about, too.
Charlie Morton has been talked about.
If he ends up being the guy that we add,
yikes.
That's when we know we're going to the World Series. But, Matt saying, I think at minimum they get Robert and a starter tomorrow, maybe Sandy. I mean, it would be cool if that does happen tomorrow because, again, like we said, in this thumbnail, we have Sandy and we have so it won't be clickbait at all. It won't be anything. It will be full on legit if that ends up happening. So, again, there could be needs on other teams. And like you said, with the Astros, they have plenty of pitchers. We have plenty of infielders. Could it be a match made in heaven for need? And also with two teams that are in separate leagues that will only face each other in the World Series. So, or only would face each other in the World Series. Hypothetically, if we get Mets Astros, we would be starting an opening day with them and then ending the season with them.
That'd be a
Think
good
about
one.
that.
Yeah.
Some useless thoughts right there. Yeah. Anyways, speaking of guys on this roster who are not here, like you said, the Winker and the Siri, let's get into the injury report before we finish off with a preview of So I'll swing it over to you, but
thanks.
but anyways, I didn't even expect to have an injury report because like yesterday we didn't really have much. And then we just got a bunch of updates all in the same day, and it was all just pieced together. And we also had one major one in Juan Soto. So we'll get into that. Frank, if you're ready to go,
I am ready.
All right. All right, so here's the injury report, like we say, with Unk.
All right, so starting it off with Juan Soto. Mets outfielder left yesterday night's game in the fourth inning after fouling a ball off his right foot. The 26-year-old has been diagnosed with just a right foot contusion before the x-rays came back negative. Mets manager Carlos Mendoza confirmed that Soto is considered day-to-day, and they are very confident that nothing is broken or fractured, as it is too early to tell if he needs to be placed on the injured list. Soto was not in the Mets starting lineup this afternoon for the series finale versus the Padres. Jesse Winker, Mets outfielder / designated hitter, is still not participating in baseball activities at the current moment. Mets manager stated that Winker is limited to standard exercises and stretches for the time being. The 31-year-old rejoined the injured list due to lower back inflammation that he experienced following just 2 plate appearances after returning from an oblique injury from early May. Francisco Alvarez, Mets catcher, left today's game in the 5th inning after taking a foul ball off the side of his catching mask. Mets manager said after the game that Alvarez is dealing with a head contusion but completely passed concussion protocol as he'll be flying back to New York with the team for more precautionary testing. That really scared me because I was like, oh my gosh, we're training the whole team and now Alvarez has someone looking at his ear. Like, I was panicking, but hopefully we'll be okay.
You think something crawled in there? Anyways.
I don't know. I hope it wasn't Eric
good,
Chavez.
Great. Definitely. Probably. Anyways. Good news on Alvarez, obviously. It seemed like he was able to walk on his own, on his own power. He wasn't dizzy or anything, so that's good. Probably won't be in the, I don't know if he'll be in the lineup for the first game or whatever. We'll see Luis Torrens or whatever, but it seems like he'll be fine. They expect Juan Soto to be in the lineup.
Is confident that he'll be in the lineup Friday for Soto.
Yeah. And yes, Game 4 is correct. We have no more Jose Butto injury reports. So for Giants Weekly, those will be a thing if anybody does a injury report on that. But again, and then also Winker, doesn't seem like anything has changed. I think that they need to prep in basically expecting that he's not going to return this season or will return very, very late in the season. They said that they're still confident he comes back, but we're running out of time here. We are definitely running out of time. We have, what is it, like 50 games left, 52, 53, something like that. We're getting very close here. So it's whatever. Anyways, as for some other stuff, did we have anything else? I don't know. Was there anything that we had? We had like another report. I'm not sure if we had that.
I feel like we've covered a lot.
Did we cover it all?
Of them, but
Okay.
at least on the Mets front,
Anyways.
we've covered a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
I felt
So on
like,
the
yeah, because I felt like once they had gotten Rogers, I thought they were not getting a Helsley or Miller or Duran or anything like that. I thought that was going to be like their one big reliever, but then they got Helsley. So now I think we could say, they could be adding another reliever, but it would not be the Miller or, Suarez or anything crazy like that. And also, I did see a report that because the Twins traded Duran, they're less likely to move Griffin Jacks unless it was like a crazy offer. So that's something to consider too. And, I have not heard any market for Luis Severino, which is someone that you and I talked about a while ago that, makes a ton of sense as a trade target. Haven't heard a word. I wonder if maybe teams don't want to take on the contract because it's a 3-year deal and he has an injury history. But, overall, he just made so much sense as a trade candidate. Yeah,
there was something yesterday where he, slipped off the mound after his second and third pitches.
Yes.
So I don't know if that has anything to do with the conditions that he has been very vocal about. Mm-hmm. Weird situation with.
And we also know
Severino
that another big reliever who's not going to be moved is Emmanuel Clase because of the whole thing going on with him in Cleveland. So that was another guy taken off the market. Someone that is available, and I know that Tony mentioned him, but Shane Bieber. Tony's talked about him for a million years now, but he could be on the move now from Cleveland. So hopefully he doesn't have any betting against.
Yeah, I've seen the Dodgers linked to him.
Yeah, Dodgers linked. So he's maybe another starting pitcher arm to consider too.
Yeah. Game for War saying extend the stream until midnight, and we'll miss Stern's big. I don't think
sleeping by then.
Yeah, he's probably sleeping as of right now. I think he's deserved his sleep for today.
Like he was sleeping, and the Astros called about the infielders. He was like, "Nah, we're not moving right now," and they just hung up, and he's done for tonight.
I don't know, or he's just like, hold on, Jeff McNeil. Everyone else, hold on, Jeff McNeil. Everyone else, we're not going to talk about this. Anyways. We'll see what the Mets do. Again, they should be very active. I'm hoping that they save all the rest of the trades for tomorrow so we don't have to, wake up at midnight and say, oh my goodness, this guy's a Met. But, timing is timing. And like I said, we've prepping for this episode. There were so many different drafts of it. Going into it. So, we will be live tomorrow.
Is going to be last minute if there is indeed
he could be
war, because the White Sox could be a situation like, okay, Mets and Phillies, you guys are battling for first place in the division. By the deadline, let me have your best offers for Robert, and we'll go to the highest bidder. So I think that's why Robert's taken a while. I don't think the Mets have necessarily put in a bad offer. I do feel like they're aggressive in trying to acquire him, but I feel like the White Sox are playing as smart of no, listen, we got multiple suitors. We don't have to make a deal at this very second. Let's wait out a little bit.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways that you can go about it, obviously, because again, the bat market has definitely been slow. We expected it to be slow because there's not many that are expected to be available. The top guy was Eugenio Suarez. We haven't heard a peep about him in 48 hours.
Yeah, it's I think it's Mariners, Tigers, Cubs. Is
something like that.
List of suitors for him.
We've seen Josh Naylor get moved. We've seen Ryan McMahon get moved, and we saw Brian Hayes get moved. That's pretty much it. And none of them are really,
Austin Slater today as another.
Austin Slater, who actually has had solid sample this year, who actually is a decent pickup, but nothing crazy.
Yeah. They
We
need
haven't
another
seen
right-handed
much about
outfielder after what happened to
Harrison
them.
Bader. I'm interested about that
I'm
market.
shocked. I mean, there's the big bat on the market. Like, how is there
He
not
is.
just
He
like a red
is he
hot
considered the
market?
top bat on the market right now statistically because he's having a solid season
I mean, well, not he's not Suarez, but statistically he's actually up there because there's no one else available. But as we
yeah
know, he's a first half of
by
the season
default.
fraud. So
By default, by default, he's the best. It's just like a lot of things of default. If this guy is the best, but yeah, he's also not that good, which we've had a lot of cases in Mets history
yeah,
with a
the
lot of
thing of like
things.
he's good, he's not good, but everyone else is worse. So like,
Yeah,
we've had that.
exactly. The best cheek of the ass. Like that's basically what we say. And to be honest, I feel like that was the conversation for a majority of the season with a lot of the young guys. Like that was, Beatty, Alvarez, Mauricio, Vientos, all of them had struggling points, and we're like, okay, who is the best out of all of them right now? All of them all of them just been awful. So again, it's just because they are the best of the four doesn't mean that they are actually good in consensus. So anyways, excuse me. The only way we wrap this one up, obviously, is going into this next series, which will be with the Giants, who they just played in San Francisco before getting swept in San Diego. So we know somewhat to what to expect. But before the trade deadline of what we have coming up, like we have said, I do want to remind everyone before we get into this next series here, we are going live once again, 3 p.m. tomorrow Eastern Time. Plenty of guests. You will get to see who joins us. We'll have some rotating guests in and out as well because some, had to show up late. Some of them had to leave early. So we'll try to figure it out as best as we can. But it will be Mets Weekly's 2025 MLB trade deadline special from 3 to 6, which is to the end of the trade deadline. And we will see what the Mets have up their sleeve. And we'll see what is in store for the rest of this trade deadline, which is now less than 24 hours to go. But in the meantime, let's get into this upcoming series against San Francisco. They are back home for a 6-game homestand, and they swept them in San Francisco. So hopefully we get a little bit more of, more luck in that. But Mets versus Giants. Here's your pitching probables of what it lines up. Not much of this is official, obviously, because we know that the trade deadline sometimes dictates a lot of things. So David Peterson is looks like he is going to be starting the series opener. He'll get a rematch like he did in San Francisco against the veteran left-hander Robbie Ray. First pitch will be on Friday. Good. First pitch will be on Friday at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY. Game 2, it is looking like Kodai Senga will get it, looking to re-grab his footing after a couple of rough outings. The Giants have yet to announce their starter. It likely will be a bullpen game. First pitch is Saturday afternoon at 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY. And then Game 3, it's not completely official yet, but Frankie Montas is lined up to make the start at this current moment for the series finale, and he will face the 24-year-old rookie southpaw Carson Whisenhunt, who is not related to me at all. We don't know each other. First pitch is Sunday afternoon at 1:40 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY. So we faced Robbie Ray, and then we don't really know what else is in store. We faced Tyler Rogers in that bullpen game, I believe. So that won't be happening.
Yeah.
We won't face him this time, and I don't know if he'll face us ever again. So maybe he might be a lifetime Met. You never know.
Yeah, well, maybe Jose Butto will pitch for the Giants in that bullpen game.
He probably will.
So that could be something to look at. But I'm pretty sure that in the last series, it was Peterson versus Robbie Ray. I believe that was the matchup last time. So you get a rematch there.
It was Senga versus a bullpen game too. So
yes, so a lot of similarities. That was a Sunday night game. So I mean, for that. With Ray, the Mets did struggle a little bit offensively, so I am curious to see if they're a little better this time at home. But as we know, the Giants, good pitching Hitting, not so much. Fielding, not so much. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I don't know if they're necessarily going to sweep them again. It depends on what kind of deadline the Mets have. And since the Giants sold Rodgers, are they going to sell more? I mean, I feel like with how this reliever market is, and you have somebody like Camilo Doval who was struggling and then rebounded, I feel like you got to sell high if you're San Francisco. That's just me. So we'll see what they have by the time the deadline passes. Luckily, the Mets have the off day tomorrow with the travel heading back to home. So we'll see. But I think overall, you see Carson, Weisenhunt pitching the last game, and you see a high ERA. It's not a guaranteed win. I mean, the Mets offense is so random. We've seen it. Like, they score more against Logan Webb than they do against Weisenhunt. Like, that's just how this Mets offense works. It's it's like we say, it's consistently inconsistent. You never know what to expect. If you're facing a good pitcher, they might have a great game. If you're facing a bad pitcher, they might have a bad game. Like, it's just so all over the place. So it's going to be, as always, a interesting series.
Yeah, they were hitless with runners in scoring position throughout that entirety of the season. We've already gone over this team because they just played them. The series of 3 games. I think it was like 0 for 23, 0 for 26. They were horrendous. Something that we haven't seen the Mets do yet, but they've come close. Anyways, like we said, Patrick Bailey, not a great hitter whatsoever, and they were running all over him, even though he is seen as one of the best defenders in all of baseball behind the plate. So we'll see if that continues. We saw a little bit of a slowdown with the base running. We saw a little bit of a slowdown with the base stealing in that series in San Diego. So I'd like to see them pick it up because I've liked what they have been doing recently. Matt Chapman obviously had a really good series against us in San Francisco. We'll see if that continues. Willy Adames is starting to heat up, like we said. Heliot Ramos, who I think actually had a really rough series against us. We'll see what happens there. And then, of course, like we said, that bullpen is still good, even though they got rid of Tyler Rogers and sent it to us. Camilo Doval, Randy Rodriguez having a phenomenal season, like we have said. Ryan Walker has been seen as the weak link, but we know that he can be very nasty.
Sean Jelly.
The very tall guy. He's like 6'11". Yeah, yes. Very, very, very tall. Yes. And then Eric Miller, another guy having a really good season, like we have said. Camilo Doval, their top guy. So we'll see. We'll see a decent amount of their bullpen because that game 2 will likely be a bullpen game for what it is lined up to. I don't know if it has been updated yet since the last time I checked, but I don't think it has been just yet of who pitches. But it's nice to see the trade deadline day. We do not have to worry about a game. We can just, sleep on these trade deadline moves, and then we don't have to, play a man short, even though we did today with Budo getting moved, and also the fact that our starter didn't go very long in. So and Pizarro, and no Soto as well. We'll see what happens with that. Plenty of things to look forward to, obviously, with this deadline coming up. We've got plenty, obviously, still to discuss, and we will be discussing it tomorrow on this channel for the last 3 hours of this trade deadline from 3 to 6. So make sure to tune in for that. Turn on those post notifications, and also subscribe, like the stream. That would be very, very appreciated. We've had a really decent amount of people in here today. So we really, really appreciate you guys for coming through. And we'd like for you to come back and talk some Mets with us too. So obviously, plenty of special guests that will be joining us for that stream. Some that have been here before, some that have not, some that are returning. You'll have to find out who that is going to be. But anyways, we will see you guys tomorrow for a very, very special stream, the final 3 hours of the trade deadline. But as for the usual, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation live in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications. Make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel to not miss when we go live. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok. Follow all of us individually. And finally, let's go Mets. Final 24 hours. This should be interesting. We'll see what happens. we will see you guys tomorrow, which will be next time.